Hey guys, what's going on? Tommy here, and welcome to the fourth video in this Django series. So in this video, we're going to be talking about creating a managed Postgres database on Linode and connecting that database to our Django application. And we're also going to talk about Django authentication. So this is when we allow a user to sign up to our website, log into our website, and also log out from our website. And I'm also going to show you how to register that Postgres database on the Django admin panel. So Linode has a 60-day $100 credit that you can use in the description below. So check that out so you can follow along with this tutorial series. And once you've done that, let's go straight into the video. So now we are going to move forward with creating a managed database on Linode. So what we're going to do is to actually connect this our Django app or our Django project with a Postgres database. And that database is going to be a managed database on Linode. So the first thing we need to do is to actually create that Postgres database. It is very easy. What we just need to do is to come into Linode. So you go to cloud.linode.com and you log in. And once again, there's a link in the description where you can get $100 credits for 60 days. So you can use that to follow along with this tutorial. So once you sign up and then log into Linode, you'll be given with this dashboard. So what you just need to do is to come to create, and it's going to show you a drop down. So you're going to come under to database. So on this database, it says cluster label. You can just give it something like Django cluster. And then for the database engine, we are using PostgreSQL in this particular video. So we're going to pick this one. So that's the latest version. And for the region, you should pick a region that is closest to you. So for me, I'm going to pick London, UK. And for this plan, you can just pick dedicated 4 GB. And for number of nodes, I'm picking 3 nodes because it avoids run downtime during upgrade and maintenance when you have more nodes. That's why I'm picking 3 nodes. And for the IP address, for you to get your IP address, you need to go to Google and type what is my IP. So we're just going to come in there and say what is my IP. And it's going to give you your IP address. So you're just going to copy that and paste that in there. So this is just going to allow you to, only you with this IP address can access this particular database. So it's also there for security reasons. So what you just need to do now is to click on create database cluster. So this takes around 20 to 30 minutes to create. But prior to this video, I already created a database that we're going to use in this video. So that is what we're going to use now. So I'm just going to click on this database. So once you created your new managed database, this is everything you should see. And this is actually good because Linode has already helped us to create this Postgres database somewhere on the cloud. So we don't actually need to start creating that manually ourselves. And it gives us all the connection details that we can just connect to with our Django project. So let's move forward with that. Now that we have this database created right here, what we want to do is to connect it with this project. So I'm going to walk you through the steps now. So what we need to do is to come into the project folder, and we're going to go into settings.py. So once we come into settings.py, we're going to scroll all the way to where we see database. So right here where we see database, what we actually want to do, as you can see, it uses SQLite as default, but we don't want to use SQLite. So we can just actually, let's copy this. Let's comment that out. So we just remove that. What we want to use is PostgreSQL. So we actually want to use PostgreSQL right here. So what we're going to do is to say engine, we're going to say django.db.backends, and then we're going to say PostgreSQL. Right? And then the name is going to be the name of the database we want to give it. So let's give it something like, let's say, Django database. So this is just the name of the database. And we also want to have something called user. And we also want to have the password. So these are the connection details that we're going to use to connect to Postgres. And then for the last thing, we want to have the host. Actually, host is not the last thing. What we also want to have is the port. That is the last thing. So now that we've added this user, the password, the host, and the port, So for this user, what this user is going to be is actually this username that we have in this connection details. So all we just need to do is to copy that, and then we're going to come in here and paste it. So once we paste that, that is done. Now it asks for the password. We're going to come in here, click on show password. We're going to copy that password, and then we're going to paste it right here. And it's also going to ask for the host. So we're going to use this particular host right here that says host. So we just copy that host. We're going to paste it in here, and then it asks for the port. So right here you can see the ports that we're using, 5432, which is basically the default for almost every single Postgres database. So I'm just going to write down there 5432. So we already have the port done right there also. Well, actually that port should be in this also. So we can save it. Once we save it now, this connection should work. What we just want to do is to now migrate the database we created before into this particular managed database that we have on Linode. So just the way we've been doing before, we're going to drag the terminal up. And what we just want to do is to say, so let's actually cut out of this by saying Ctrl+C. And if I run server, you can see that it's giving me an error that says error in loading scop2. So this scop2 is actually what Django uses to connect, is like the bridge between Django and Postgres. So for you to use Postgres in your Django database, you need to have scop2 installed. So let's just copy scop2. We cut out of this and we say pip free install scop2. So that is going to go ahead and install scop2 for us. It's going to take a while. And basically, just make sure you have scop2 installed just to avoid any errors. So now let's try to run our server again. And as you can see, it says port 5432 fatal. So it says this doesn't exist. And what we just need to do is to come in here and remove that. And we need to save it. So it says port 5432 fatal Django database does not exist. The reason why is because we are trying to connect to a database that doesn't exist on this particular managed database. So what we can just do to actually, take care of this is that we can come in here, and what we want to do is to import this particular. So right here, we want to import this database cluster in PostgreSQL. So we're going to install something called pgadmin. Pgadmin is like an interface for Postgres that allows you to, create database and do some other stuff that you need to do in Postgres. So we're going to install pgadmin. For you to install pgadmin, once you install Postgres on your computer, pgadmin automatically comes with it. So what we're just going to do is to search, and we're going to say pgadmin4. So mine has already loaded, and it asks for the password. So this is the password you used when you installed Postgres. So when you install Postgres, it's going to ask for a password. So right here now, what I'm just going to do, in these servers, I'm going to actually create a new server. So register server. And in this register server, I'm just going to name the server Linode managed database. And in this connection now, we are going to use all these details to connect to it. So it's asking for the host, and this is the host right here. We're going to paste that in there. And the port is 5432, and it's asking for the username. So we're going to take the username, paste the username in there, and it's asking for the password. So the password, we copy that, and then we paste the password in there. So all of this is what we need. Once we hit save, it's going to import that for us. Once I open this, you can see that in here, I just have a particular database called Postgres. So now that I see the database I have, what I can just do is to connect to that Postgres database in here. The reason why it was giving us an error is because we don't have a database named Django database. We have a database named Postgres in here. So I just did this so you can see what database we have here. So now that we know we have Postgres, what we can just do is to say the name is Postgres. Once we say that, if I scroll up, you can now see that it's running successfully. So let's do Ctrl+C, and let's do python manage.py run server. You can see that this server is now running successfully. But what we actually want to do is to migrate this our Django database into this particular PostgreSQL. So let's cut out of that runtime and say Python 3 managed.py make migrations. So this is just to make migrations if there was any change. So there is no change, so it didn't make any migrations. So we just say Python 3 manage.py migrate. Now it's going to migrate it for us. So you can see that it's applying all migrations. So now, boom. Now if we come in here, and what I'm just going to do is to actually refresh this particular one. And if I come in Postgres, right? If I come under schemas, right? And let's say refresh. And we say public. And we say tables. You can now see that we have all the Django sessions, migrations, content, admin, and every single thing we have it here. If I come into this auth user, and then I say view and edit data, and I view every single data in there. So right here, you can see that now we have this, like all the data that, like when we create a new user, we have all the data here. So let's actually test this out. If we come back here and we come into our admin, let's refresh this. Okay, so our site is not running. Let's run our site. And once I hit refresh, you can now see that nothing is showing. This is because we now have a new database called the Postgres database. If I go to /admin, it asks me to log in. If I try to log in with that admin that I used before, it says it's not working. So what we need to do now is to now create a new admin or a new super user. So what I'm just going to do is to cut out of this runtime again and say Python 3 manage.py create super user. So we just do the same thing we did, admin, leave that blank, admin bypass. So now that is working, we run our server again. If I come in here and hit refresh and I hit continue, you can now see that it logs me in with admin. If I come to schools, because schools is showing right now because we registered it right here in the admin site, right? That is why schools is showing. So if I come to choose schools, we actually don't have any database or data here. So what I can just do now, as you can see, everything is working. And if we, let's say we do refresh, and then right here, you cannot see that we have something called demo app school, which is the school models right here from demo app. So if I now come in here into where we have auth user and I view data all rows again, so you are going to see that now we have a new user updated, which is admin. So I can actually like see all my data right here, and I can also see all my data right here from my user database. So I can create a new user from this admin panel, and let's say I just have a user called Tommy, and I give him password of admin, and I save. So it's okay, since the password is too short, okay, let's just give it something random, admin, and it's save. So now that is working now. And what I can just do is to come into this pgadmin. Once I hit view all data, right, and I say all rows, that is going to refresh it. You're going to see that what we created right here has also been updated right here. So you can see now that I have a new user named Tommy, right? So all of this is just connecting to this managed database we created on Linode. So the purpose of this was to show you how to connect this Postgres database right here in your application, which has worked successfully. So now that we've been able to connect this, our managed database on Linode, we've been able to connect it with our project right here in Django. So now we have a working database that we can use and even also use in production. So not just in development time, also in production level. So now that we have this done, the next thing that I want to talk about is actually dealing with user authentication. So this is signing in a user to your platform and allowing a user to like register on your website or log in and all of that, and also log out. So let's just go ahead and do that. Let's quit these settings. So with everything we've learned, we should know that the first thing we need to have is a new URL that shows the registration page. So what we're going to do is right here in template, we'll create a new file named register.html. So in here, we can just have a simple form that says something like, so we can just say form, and it's just going to be label first of all, and that label is going to be username, and the next thing we just want to use is the type username. So then we have the label password, and we say type password, then we have submit with the value of register. So we can also have, let's say, an email and name email. So we can just have this is the basic form that we can use to, do this type of stuff. So what we're just doing is having a field that has email, and then also having a field that has username and password. So right here we can just say something like h1 sign up to my site. So this is the basic. Let's have br tag right here just to give it some spacing. We can input that right here and right here. So this is the basic form. What I want to do is to create a new URL for this registration. So we'll do v. And right here, you can see that I said we don't leave this blank. So when we have another URL, we write register. So this means our website /register. If I come in here, what this means is this /register. So right now it says page not found because we haven't finished configuring the URL. But once we have this, it should work. So we wanted to go into views and look for the function named register, and also name should be register. So right here in views, we have to create a new function named register. So we have to say define register. It's also going to take a request. And at first, let's just return render, and we want to just render request index no register.html. So this is what we just want to do now. Oh, right here okay, so what we can just do is to finish that up. So let's just say schools and close that and close this. So no more errors. So right here we have, let's close this. Right here we have this simple registration view that just returns this register.html. So it should work. If I come here and hit refresh now, you can now see that I have this simple stuff that says username, email, password. So let's just come back in here and also add the br tag right here, just to give it nice spacing right here and right here. So let's see how that looks. Okay, one more right. So let's just add two. This, yeah, and yeah. So now we hit refresh. Good. So now that looks better. Now it asks for username, email, and password, and it says register. So what we want to do is to actually send all this data back to this registration page once the user clicks on submit. Now, like we've done before, what we need to do is just to say action. We leave it blank. That means it's bringing it back here. So we change that to action. And the method, remember I said I explained the difference between get and post. So from what I said there, we should know that we should use a post method now, because a user is inputting sensitive information like password, and we don't want that to be shown in the URL bar. So once we have that, once the user hits, if I save it and I come here and hit refresh, and let's say the user input something at this and hit register, first of all, it gives us this CSRF token verification field. So this is because whenever we use a post method, we must always have this CSRF token. So we just have CSRF token right here. So once we have that, that should do the work. If I come here and then hit register again and input something here and hit register, you see it brings us back here. Nothing happens. It doesn't update anything in database. But that's what we want it to do. We want it to update something in the database. So let's come back in here and go to the view. So what this view is just doing now, right here, is just rendering the register.html page. But what we want to do is that once the user hits register, we want to get all the values that the user already inputs here, and then we're going to check if this email is valid in this particular database here, or let's say the username is taken. If that is the case, then we want to tell the user that this email is taken, please choose another email, or this username is taken, please choose another username. But if it's not, then we just want to register the user successfully. So one more thing we need to add, one more field, is to add another password where we tell the user to repeat password. So then we check if the two passwords are the same before we continue also. So let's come in here in this particular register.html. So let's just say right here, so we don't need this. We just say type password name password 2, and then we want to have the label, and let's have the BR tags. So let's say repeat password. So now that we have that, let's come here and see the change. So good, username, email, password, and repeat password. So that is what we need. That is good. So the next thing that we want to do now is to come into views, and right here we want to say if request dot method is equals to post. That means something is being sent. Then we want to get all the values. So what we're just going to do is to say username. We want to get the username. We want to get the email. We want to get the password. So that's the first password. And we want to get the second password, which is password 2. And that should be all the details we're collecting, all the values. So let's hit views.py, and right here we just need to say request.post username, and we're going to do the same for all of it, email, password, and password 2. So request with an R. I'll do email. So we say copy email, paste it here, copy password, paste that, and password 2, then paste that. So now that we have all the values that the user inputted, what we just want to do, before we even move forward, I want to tell you that this user database right here, if I come to home, this user database is the database that stores all the users on our platform. So once a user registers, we want to store their details in this user database right here. So once a user clicks register and the username is not taken or the email is not taken and the passwords are correct, they are the same, and they hit register, we want to just come here and create a new database using those values. So what we can just do now to do that is to just say, we're going to come in here real quick, and we're going to have some conditions. And those conditions, the first one we're going to check is if the passwords are the same. So we'll say if password is equals to password 2. Then we want to check if user, so we need to import some stuffs, and what we're going to import are this particular user database right here, or this user model. So we're going to say down here, we're just going to say from django.contrib.auth.models. So from this we want to import user, and we also want to import auth. I'm going to show you why we import this later, but for now let's just import that. So we can save this, and the next thing we also want to import is called messages. Now these messages is what is going to send a message to the front end and say something like this email is taken, this password is not the same. So that's why we need messages, and we want to import redirect. So this redirect is going to redirect the user to, let's say, once they finish signing up, we want to redirect the user to the login page so they can log in. So that's what this redirect is for. Now the next thing we want to do is to come back in here, and once we come in here now, we're just going to say after if password is equals to password 2, we'll say if user.objects.filter, and we want to check if email, right, equals email dot exists. Then we want to say messages dot info request, I would say email taken. So once we say that, let's just redirect the user back to this page. Return redirect. We redirect the user back to this register page. So what we are doing here is first checking if the passwords are the same. Then we're saying user.object.filter. What this is saying is that filter the search. So we're searching if there's any email address that is equals to this email address that the user inputs. We're checking if that exists. If that exists, that means this email has been used to sign up before. Then we'll say messages.info email taken. So this is sending messages to the register.html saying email taken. Then we'll return and redirect them back to that register page so that they can actually see the message. So once we do that, the next thing we want to check is else if user.objects.filter. So what we want to check now, if username exists, then if it exists, we do exactly the same thing, username taken. Username. So we just say username taken. And then once we say username taken, the next thing we want to do is to come here and say else. And then we just say, so what we're trying to say now is that if the email is not taken, username is not taken, and password is equals to password, else all of this, that means we want to actually create a new, user on our platform. So we'll say user is equals to user.objects. So once we use this create method, we're going to give it all the values and it's going to create that user for us. So we'll say username equals username. And then we'll say email equals email. And we'll say password. So password should be equals to, we'll just give it one of these passwords since they are the same thing. So let's just say equals to password. So once we do that, the next thing to do is to say user.save. So once we save this user, the user will be created successfully. And if what we now want to do is to have the else statement for this. So we add all this if they are taken, but if this is not equals to each other, so that means else, then we'll just say, let's copy this, paste it, and just say password not matching. So let's remove this. So then we'll redirect them back to the user also. So this should work successfully. This is actually all we need to create a simple registration view for a user. So let's save this, right? And then we'll come back in here and see what that does. So let's click on that. So let's say the username now is Tim and the Gmail is tim@g.co and the password is, let's say, admin. Let's just use admin and hit register. So you can see it brought us back here. We didn't tell the user anything for now, but let's come back in here and see and hit refresh. So now that I hit refresh, you can see that we now have a new user named Tim. We have his email address, right? So we have Tim, we have the email address, we have everything we need for that user. The only thing we can't see is the user's password. But apart from that, we've been able to successfully create a new user on our platform, which is what we need. But now let's check, because now we know that we have Tim, right? Let's now try to create a new user with Tim again. And let's just do something k.o. So you're going to see that it is meant to give us a response, but it didn't tell us anything like this user has been taken. Although if we come in here, it doesn't create any new user, right? It just says username taken in this admin, but it doesn't say it right here where we need it to say it. Now, what we need to do is to come here into our register.html. So in this register.html, this is where we're actually going to show the messages, and I'm going to show you how you can show those messages. So what you're just going to say is, let's say down here, for message in messages, let's end for, we can just say message. Now once we come in here and try to sign, so it gives us an error and saying end for, did you forget to load this particular tag? So end for is meant to be same together. So let's come here and just hit refresh. So let's try to use team, and let's say t@k.o, give it a password, and hit register. So now you can see that down where it says username taken. So that is how we can show the user the error. But what we just need to do is to, let's come here, let's show the user at the top, and let's give it like an H1. And in here, let's give it like some styling. So we can say style equals color. Let's give it red. So now once we say this, now let's try to use an email that has been taken. So let's just use a random username, but let's see the email. So let's say we use gmail.co, and then we give it a password. Admin, and hit register. You can see that up here now it says email taken, not username taken. So that is a simple way of creating a new user on your platform. The next thing we want to do is to actually allow the user to log in on our site. So once the user signs up, we want to redirect them to the login page and allow them to log into our site. So now that we are able to allow the user to create a new account, what we want to do is to allow the user to log into our website. So we're basically authenticating them into our site. Now let's do this. Similarly to how we created a new URL for registration, we're going to do the same for login. So we're just going to say login.html, right? And in here, we're also going to just have a simple form. So let's have exactly the same thing that we have here. Let's copy it and paste it in login. So we paste this in login, and then the next thing we want to do is right here where we have sign up, let's say login to the site. We're going to leave these messages because, as you know, we're also going to send some message, because what if the users try to input a username that is not even in our database? We have to tell them that this is an invalid credential. So that's what we're going to use that message for. I'm also going to use post, but now we just need only username and password. And we need just one password. So we have just username and we have password. And let the value of this be equals to login. So once we have that done, what we can just do now is to come into URLs and just create, let's actually close that. So now let's create a new view called login, a new URL called login, and then we're also going to come here and create a new view. So new function login takes a request, and then let's just return render request login.html. Now let's come here and say login. So you can see that it shows us this site, login to our site, and it gives us this form to login. If we try to log in, nothing happens for now. So what we can just do now is to actually come back here, and what we want to do is to allow the user to log in. So what we're going to do is that we're going to say in here where we say login, we're just going to say if request the method it equals to post. Then what we want to do is to get the username and password. So we're just going to copy it from here actually. We don't need to write that again. So we just copied that, and we don't need email. So we're signing in the user with username and password. So once we have the username and password, what we just want to do is to say user equals auth. Remember when we imported auth, if I scroll up, that I said we were going to use it, that is what we're going to use it for, to authenticate or allow the user to log into our platform. So we'll say auth.authenticate. I want to authenticate the user using the username, and we want to use the password. So authenticate the user using username and password. But we can't just authenticate the user straight away. Let's now check if the user is actually present. So we can say if user is not none. So what this is saying is that if user is not none, what this means is that if this particular user is not invalid, what we want to do, that means if this user is here, we want to say auth.login. And this not should be small letters. So we're going to say auth.login request user. So we're going to say auth.login request user, and when the user logs in, we will just want to redirect them. So we say return redirect the user back to the home page. So to redirect user back to the home page, all we just need to do is slash. So that is going to redirect the user back to the home page. But if the user is none, that's else, what we're going to do is to say messages.info. We're going to say request. And we just want to say something like invalid login details. And we just want to return them. So return redirect them back to this login page. So once we do all of that, what we're just going to do is to save it. So once we save it, this should work perfectly. Now let's come in here and try to log in with a user that is not correct. So let's do something like this and say login. You can see now that it says invalid login details. But imagine as login with admin. It redirects me to the home page, which is just this normal index.html right here. But what we actually want to do is to, when the user logs in, we want to show the user something like welcome user. So we want to tell the user their name. So we can just have an H1 and say welcome. This is very easy. What we just need to do is say welcome, double braces, and say user.username. That easy. Once I come in here and hit refresh, if the user is logged in, it's going to say welcome and the name of that user. So now that we're able to do this, but this only works when the user is logged in. If the user is not logged in, right, it won't say welcome. It will just say welcome. It won't say the username, which I think is quite good. So what I'm actually going to show you is that we're going to allow the user to log out. So you click on the button right here to log out. Once the user logs out, we're going to redirect the user back to this page. Then you see that it's not going to show admin. It's just going to show welcome. So to do that, login is actually the easiest view to do. What we just need to do is to say, we create a new view and say log out. I meant logout is the easiest view to do. So say request. And then what we just need to say is auth.logout request. And then that is actually going to log the user out, but then we want to redirect them. So we say return redirect the user to the home page once they log out. So that is the easiest one to do. So we just say log out, and right here we just say log out views.logout, which was the function we just created, and let's give it a name of logout. So we don't need to create a template for this because there's no template. We just want the user that whenever the user clicks on a logout button here, it takes the user to this login URL. This logout URL, which takes the user to this logout view, and it just logs the user out. So right here in index, we just want to say something like h3, and we'll say log out. So let's put this in a tag and let that go to rev and let that go to logout. That easy. So once we just say logout, it's going to know that this is a particular URL in here named logout. So let's try this out and hit refresh. It says logout. Once I hit that, you see that it logs me out and just automatically removes the admin. But if I come back to /login, so you can see now that it just says welcome to me. So that has worked successfully, and that is going to be the end of this video. I hope you understood everything we did in this video, and if you did, please don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe, and also drop down in the comment what topic or what video you want us to cover next. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.